there are people out there that have amazing ideas, but they don't have the resources, the money, the network, the team, the technical know-how. None of that matters anymore. We are going through a great reset where if you have an idea in your head and you are willing to adopt and you want to create, you can do it right now for the first time ever in history this week.
If someone has a limited budget, which subscription services should they pay for and at what level?
It really depends on your use case. I think for most people, it actually doesn't matter that much. Whether you use Gemini or whether you use ChatGPT, and we're talking about like the $20 level. For most people, that's completely fine. For anyone that's actually doing any sort of deep research, business analysis, that's actually starting businesses, running a business, even if it's a small one, you should probably pay up for like a $200 a month style subscription.
And which one? How do you know which one to purchase?
Well, again, it really depends on your use case. And right now, today, everything has changed in the last 2 weeks. So I guess I just answer the question as if we were doing this show 2 weeks ago. But the reality is today, now that we live in a world of agentic AI, not every AI company has put out their full agentic AI stack. So today, Anthropic has put out something that they call Cowork, right? And Anthropic Cowork essentially gives you the ability not just to run a prompt, but to actually have numerous agents. It's like having a multitude of employees, and you simply tell it what you want to do, and it will have 5, 6, 7 agents. One will be running a marketing department. One will be running a tech stack for you, and it will piece together all the things that it needs to piece together in order to accomplish any task or any goal that you have. And it will work 24 hours a day, right? So it's not just like putting in a prompt and waiting for an answer and then copy and pasting and doing it the way we've been doing it through ChatGPT the last couple of years. Now, there is another way to do this, which I think most people are adopting in the last couple of weeks, and you've probably heard of OpenClaw, right? It's gone through a few different naming changes, but this is essentially the same thing, except it's open source. It's not run by a big model, and because it's open source, it's completely free. So everyone's going out right now and buying Mac Minis, and they're basically running OpenClaw, and you don't have to be a technologist to do this. Anyone in the world can do this really easily. You just simply tell it, hey, I want to start this business. How do I do this? What do I need to do? And you set up OpenClaw with its own email account. You set it up with its own social media accounts. You set it up with its own credit card if you want, with its own limits. It's its own person, and it runs on a Mac Mini. And the reason why you want to run it on a Mac Mini is because it's new and because it's open source. So the safety standards aren't really there yet. So it becomes an employee. And in fact, it can become an employee that's managing 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 employees, because it will create other agents inside of itself to do an infinite number of things. So it will actually run a business for you from A to Z on its own. And that's what's been happening the last 2 weeks.
Possible? To me, that just doesn't seem feasible, that you could tell it this idea, like, I want to make this app that does this, do it. That it'll actually go and like make the app and put it on the app store and charge your card for it. And like, how?
Graham, it's doing all of it. I know. This is why I haven't slept in 2 weeks. I mean, this is why I initially missed the first, when we were supposed to be doing this show a couple of days ago, and I just didn't even realize, because my life is this crazy. I can't keep up with the technology the last couple of weeks. So, what I do as an investor, I essentially spend 4 hours a day dissecting thousands and thousands of comments on videos to try to surface change in the world, right? Cultural shifts, consumer behavioral shifts. And then I try to connect the dots of that change to investable opportunities in the stock market. And that's what a social arb trader does. That's what I've been doing for 18 years. There are a lot of people that follow me, obviously. And there are at least 6 people that I know of in the last week that have set up OpenClaw boxes and said, I want you to replicate everything that Chris Camillo does. And a few of these people have actually put the results and have shown it working on X. And it works 24 hours a day doing everything that I do. So it actually goes into TikTok and it starts watching videos. It runs through comments. It knows what words to look for. It knows to look for words like sold out everywhere, obsessed. So it understands my methodology and it knows what to search for on TikTok. And then it scans comments and it evaluates what's trending in real time. And then it extrapolates what might be a good investment to make. This was done in 48 hours. They basically replicated 18 years of my work in 48 hours on a Mac Mini, just voice prompting, hey, can you replicate what Chris Camillo does? It researched me, and then it started a company, and it started doing this in real time. And so I'm just one very niche individual with a niche business, right? It can do this for any business in the world. In fact, like this is the most exciting piece of this in that I'm calling it like the Great Reset. Okay. And I'm so excited for it because there's so much negativity around AI right now. Everything that you just talked about with so much of the benefit of AI getting concentrated to one class of people, it doesn't have to be that way. This is the first time in my lifetime where the future is not necessarily owned by those with the most credentials or the most money or the best education. It's owned by anyone in the world that's willing to adopt quickly and create. So, Gen Z has been complaining for a very long time, and they have a valid complaint that they don't have the opportunity that, boomers had. Right. And we could all agree that to an extent, the pathway for them isn't as clear. They could spend a lot of money on education and still end up with no job, in debt, and no clear pathway to success and financial freedom in their life. Well, right now, anyone in the world that is willing to adopt and create can do what I just told you. Because for the past 20 years, if you wanted to start a business, you would have to raise money, you would have to build a team, you would usually have to understand technology or have to communicate what you were trying to build through a technologist. And it would take a lot of time. There's a tremendous amount of risk involved with all of that. And because of that, most of the world's problems did not mandate starting a business to fix them. Because even if you had the solution to a problem, the cost of actually implementing that solution was way too high for that particular problem. So the business wasn't viable. Now, every single solution to every single problem in the world is theoretically viable. So there are millions, tens of millions of nuanced problems throughout every industry, every sector, even in people's personal lives. Every single one of those problems is solvable with AI for the most part. And all you have to do is surface the problem and have the wherewithal to go out and adopt and spend 2 or 3 days of your life learning how to use these tools. And you do not have to be a technologist.
How do you start learning about these? What's the first step?
First step, you go on TikTok, you go on the search bar, you type in the word AI, and you filter down for videos that have come out in the last week. And you just watch 40 of them. That's it. Then you go on to X and you essentially do the same exact thing. And there are numerous people, hundreds and hundreds of people that are excited to show you how to use this tool and get ramped up in 24 hours. As a complete newbie that has no technological background, okay? You do not need to know how to do anything. I'll give you a very specific example, okay? You can pick any business, an HVAC business, a sprinkler business. There are millions of these businesses. Almost none of them are willing to embrace AI right now. You can simply go to one of them and say, hey, I'm an AI guy. Give me one area where you're leaking money, one area where your business is leaving money on the table, and I'm going to fix that for you for free. And they might say, hey, we are slow to react to phone calls that come in late at night. Sometimes we don't respond to them at all, or by the time we respond to them, they've then contacted one of our competitors. In 24 hours, you can set up an AI agent that will answer those calls, send out immediate automated text responses, then get that person signed up and get them a quote bid in next to real time. You can have it integrate with every single service that business uses currently. It could input into their CRM. Okay. It could email all the people within the business that need to know about that, including the business owner. You can set that all up within days for that business at essentially very close to no cost. You just fixed a huge problem for them. You might increase that company's revenue by 5 to 15% in 2 or 3 days. Immediately, you become invaluable, and you just probably picked up a client that will pay you $2,000 or $3,000 to be their AI guy to fix all their other problems. You can replicate that across 10 or 20 other businesses and probably make $500,000 a year. There are people right now doing this. They just started in the last week. Historically, like during the dot-com boom, the gold rush was trying to pick the right company to work for. I was part of that. If you pick the right company, you get your stock options, and 2 or 3 years later, you're a millionaire, even if you're 22 years old. And I had so many friends that were that age that became millionaires overnight because they picked the right company. You pick the wrong company, maybe you end up with nothing. This is a very different gold rush for this generation. It's not about who they pick to work for. They have to do it on their own. But the opportunity is near infinite. The difference is the window is very small. So you have to do it right now, like this year, not like in 6 months, not in 9 months, but like today. So over the course of the last week, I've probably gotten 15 calls from people in my network that told me they were about to quit their job. Some of them were 23, 24. Some of them were in their mid-30s. Some of them were in their 40s because they got a box, they got a Mac Mini, they got this set up, and they said, Chris, I can literally start any business in the world and have it running in 48 hours. I've never seen anything like this. Every hour matters. I cannot give up hours. I must quit my job. So if you're young and you've been complaining because, the world was jaded against you and you did not have any opportunity, you just got it.
So one word answer, should every single person at the end of this podcast, not right now, but at the end of this podcast, buy a Mac Mini and download OpenClaw?
No.
Okay, so not everybody.
For anyone that is willing to adopt and create, yes, you should do that tomorrow.
Would you say the highest leverage AI for the average person out there, not for a very specific person, but the average person, would be OpenClaw? Would be number one, and then maybe just a basic Gemini or ChatGPT or something like that?
I wouldn't think of it like that. First of all, they're all changing every week. So whatever we decide on today is going to be different in 3 or 4 weeks. They're all evolving their models. They all do things slightly differently. If you want to have an entire company operating 24 hours a day, then you have to have agentic AI. You have to have agents.
So if you look at the monitor that is being used for this OpenClaw agent AI thing, it's literally just like windows that are scrolling and then clicking buttons and then creating a Gmail account.
You could think of it like that, exactly. Yes.
Simultaneous.
You'll wake up in the morning and you could see everything that it's done for you over the course of the night, and you can communicate back and forth with it. It will even help you decide what the best business is for you to start. Right. So based on things that are happening in your city, based on your interest, based on your expertise, based on your relationships, on your contacts, it will help you figure out what would be the best business for it to start for you.
And the difference between OpenClaw and something like ChatGPT is that ChatGPT doesn't really have a true memory. That is correct. But OpenClaw sort of actually can compound exorbitant amounts of data and synthesize the data and then act on the data.
So what OpenClaw can do is it can document and then store, right?
Mhm.
The same way that you guys do. It will have documents. It has files. It creates things and then it saves them in files. So now you have that. It's not just living, right, as part of an index that an AI has to tap into. It literally creates regular files on a regular computer, just like you do. It works just like a human does. If it needs to make phone calls, it will make phone calls for you. It will create a voice and it will make the phone calls if you give it the ability to do so and if you allow it to do so. There are people out there that have amazing ideas, but they don't have the resources, the money, the network, the team, the technical know-how. None of that matters anymore. We are going through a great reset where if you have an idea in your head and you are willing to adopt and you want to create, you can do it right now for the first time ever in history this week. Like there are people that understand this because every phone call I take, the people are borderline in tears when they speak to me. They're like, Chris, have you seen, do you understand what's happening right now? Do you understand what I just built last night? I cannot believe it. Like, this is every conversation I have with someone that's building on agentic AI right now. There are actually no words to describe how mind-melting the capabilities are because you no longer have to like go through all these systems and all these blockages that you used to in the past. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've wanted to do a billion things. I did like a very small number of them because of all the friction involved with going from an idea to a product. There's virtually no friction anymore. I know it's hard to believe, but there's like virtually no friction with so many of at least these digital ideas. You know what? This does remind me, I have this feeling that I've had the last 2 weeks, and I haven't felt it since the early days of COVID. February 2020 is the last time my body felt like this, where it was like a very small number of people know about something and like the entirety of the rest of the world is just going on with their life. And you're like, why isn't every single human on earth talking about this right now? I really was excited to dive into the Epstein stuff when it finally came out, and it's came out the last 2 weeks. I have not spent 1 minute of my day reading Epstein stuff, watching the videos. Like, I see the headlines and I'm like, I don't even care about it anymore. I was so waiting for this to happen. Like, I wanted to go down the rabbit hole of seeing like all the truth and who's involved. And I don't even care. And I think once you know what's happening, you're oblivious to everything else happening in the world. I haven't watched TV in 2 weeks. I haven't done anything other than this. And I think all of the people that are in this world that are either building with AI agents right now or have friends that are building that they're watching or who are hyperactive in this community on X are like, they can't think about anything else because they're like, dude, this is like the biggest thing that's ever happened in our life. And we don't even know where it's going next. Like, we don't even know. Like, you saw what happened to the SaaS companies. Like, that's because a handful of people on institutional Wall Street are in this world and are seeing this. And they're like, holy crap, this is happening. Like, okay, we can make a case that a lot of these SaaS companies have massive amounts of security and massive amounts of learning over 20 years, and they're not going to be just displaced. But wow, are they going to be disrupted the next 5 years? Because there's so many options now. You can have your agents basically replicate most of that stuff on the fly. And it might not work for a big company that has to, be aware of the code base and has to make sure it's maintainable and has to make sure that the security is tight and, has 50,000 things that they figured out with Salesforce over the past 20 years, that they're not going to go through all of that just with a agentic AI app that does 80% of it or 90% of it. They're just not going to do it. They're not going to take that risk. But if there are parts of their company that they could not have on that CRM anymore, or new companies that they're spinning out that aren't as like, it's going to meaningfully impact these companies.